Hey everybody, it's your sewing buddy Lauren, and this week instead of a watch me make things while I talk at you, I thought I'd do a quick summary of things that help me personally when I'm trying to get my sewing done and get motivated and sit down and make a video. Um, so these are things that work for me personally. They might not work for you. I would love to hear your other ideas, tips, and tricks in the comments. But I'm gonna start probably at the base, which is start small. Like if I'm feeling really unmotivated, I just want to watch YouTube videos or binge something on Netflix today, it usually helps me if I start with something small. Like maybe I just need to pin something, like pin a seam that'll get me moving. Um, or like Kathy Hay has a video all about just um, cutting anxiety and that making that cut into your actual fashion fabric and how that can be a stall. But if you just make one little snip somewhere where it doesn't even matter, like in the selvage edge, that gets you started. And it's the same kind of concepts. It's, do the thing. Um, but you just have to, get your feet in there and start going. Um, and maybe it means you need to set your big project aside just for a little bit and make something small. Like maybe, I don't know, crochet a square or put a patch on something, do some mending that you need to do. Just, get your sewing brain going. And then once you're done with that, you have that accomplished feeling and you can jump into the actual project that you're here to work on. Another tip number two is schedule time. Set time aside, say, like, I'm going to take 20 minutes in the morning before I go to work, or, after dinner, then while we're watching TV, I'm going to work on my hand sewing, things like that. My days off are my big, like, this is when I'm sewing, but that's also my cleaning day. So I kind of have my morning for doing dishes and laundry and things like that. And then usually in the afternoon until Jody comes home, that's when I'm sewing and that's when I'm doing these videos. It's also helpful to have a sewing buddy, which was kind of my inspiration for this whole series. Is it's really helpful for me to have someone who can sit there and just craft with me and talk about nonsense whatever with me while we're both working together. Last time I did this was with my friend Sarah, and she was working on schoolwork. Like, definitely not crafting related, but still having someone there doing their work while I'm doing my work is really helpful just to make sure we're both staying on task and getting things done. On that note, the next tip I have is to plan ahead. Um, so schedule that time with your friend and then make sure you have all the things that you need, because you don't want to, like, oh, well, now we have to set everything aside because I forgot that I need interfacing or I need buttons or whatever. Just get all of your stuff together for the project and start that from the inside out. So make sure that you have, like, what kind of undergarments are you wearing with this outfit? Because that's going to determine the layers that go over that. Is it modern? Or do you need a corset? Do you need any petticoats for this? Because that's going to change your skirt length. So planning that way, starting from the inside out, will really help you once you get to the main outer layers. Those are the important ones that everyone sees. But if they don't have the right structure, they're not going to look right. And then you're not going to feel as good about your project. And sketch it out too. Like, know where you're going with it. I often skip that step, which sometimes gets me into trouble because then I get to putting trim on and realize that, oh, this would have looked a lot better if I'd put the trim on before I put these panels together. So just go in with a plan that's going to save you time, that's going to save effort, and that's going to make everything flow a lot more smoothly and make this less of a chore and more of a thing that you love to do. Next, avoid distractions. Keep your phone out of arm's reach. If you need to keep track of time, get an analog clock, a watch, set a timer, whatever you need to do, but don't keep the internet at your fingertips. I know sometimes you have to look up, okay, but how do I actually do this? That goes back into the planning phase. If you're not sure about it, then before you jump into your sewing day, take a little time on your lunch break, like, okay, I'm going to be working on this evening. How does that happen? And then you will have all of that set when you're in your actual sewing time. And it also helps me if I have some kind of background noise. Again, that goes back to having the sewing buddy, back to why I do this channel. Any kind of background noise. Music often helps me because I am woefully short on YouTubers to binge while I'm sewing, and I would really appreciate any recommendations. I know I've mentioned Kathy Hay, Bernadette Banner is awesome. I will happily sit and listen to someone talk about their sewing while I'm sewing. Kind of, again, why I even do this at all. And that moves to setting the mood for sewing. This can be a little bit more difficult if you have other people in the house at the time, which is why I do most of my sewing before my husband gets home from work on my days off. But I like to open the blinds. If it's a nice day, I'll open the windows, spray a fragrance to kind of change the air in the house, make it a little bit more fanciful. Again, music or background noise. If I'm making like a fantasy costume, then it's fun to kind of have fantasy elven music in the background. And while I'm working on Hexadecimal, I might even put on a few episodes of Reboot because I've watched them all. I don't need to pay attention to them, but they are background noise and they're thematic for me. And then even the way that you dress, like a lot of times you see me in jeans and a t-shirt, but the fact that I got dressed and I'm not like in loungewear means that I am doing stuff today, and that can have a big impact too. But also, like, sometimes dress up, wear something nice to sew in. There's that sewing handbook from the 40s that says, you know, do your hair and makeup and throw on some pearls and a nice dress. I don't recommend sewing in heels if you have a foot treadle because much like heels while driving, that can just end poorly sometimes. But yeah, those are my big main focus tips on just getting it done. Again, finishing it is more important than making it perfect. If you're on a deadline and the options are go back and fiddle that little seam or have something to wear, have something to wear. No one is going to notice that little tiny askew stitch, I promise you. There's also the 3-foot rule. If you can stand 3 feet away from your garment and you don't see the flaw, it's not a flaw. It's okay. And yeah, I guess a lot of this is like sewing with anxiety, sewing with depression, and how to get through those hurdles. Take your medicine, see your therapist, brag to your therapist about what you accomplished also. Like, don't be afraid to toot your own horn, even to your friends. Like, hey, I'm in a downward slump right now, but I still did this and that, and I got this done, and look at this photo. It's not finished yet, but this is what I did today. And, you know, your friends are going to support you in that, and that's a really good feeling. Also be supportive of your friends. If they post like, hey, here's my work in progress, hit like. Speaking of, you know, I would really appreciate hit the like button, subscribe, ding the bell, comment. I'm on Facebook once again, and I hope, I know this was a short video, I hope it was helpful, and I hope that you can go create something really amazing.